you speak about these two basic conditions about of democracy, there is still two dimensions, normative and substantial dimension. If you take as a normative dimension, you can say that, well, everybody in the United States has right to vote, everybody can participate, it's a normative. Yeah. It is the same for Russia, it can be the same for China if they adopt such constitution. Yeah. That's one thing. And another thing is another dimension is the material dimension, where we take the critics, the critical legal studies, you can take roles. Yes. Well, who criticize very much American democracies, not democracy at all. Well, from this point of view, we have co-rights of normative and substantial sociological dimension of democracy. That's why I wanted just to put a little stress on it. We must be careful to not to merge this.
No, for me it was mainly methodological distinction between normative and factual, which then you translated even to substantive and formal. But what I meant to say is, and clearly we know that every sociologist of law would tell you, norms are facts that are studied and it's inseparable. Yes, if you're a Humean scholar in normative philosophy, you can do it and you need to do it. But if you're a sociologist, you need to accommodate completely opposite view and study norms as facts. And therefore, you come to the conclusion, well, but these norms that I study as facts, they have some real consequences, and they are not just normative preconditions, but they are operative measures. So this is how systems theory would respond. Well, norms are just enabling operations of a political system. And I actually wrote. We don't have time, and it would set our talk off to a different topic. But I wrote recently an article about Kelsen and Schmidt. And first, of course, I say how much both of them owe to Max Weber. And second, I say, well, they try both to struggle with normativism, and of course, Kelsen comes to the, yes, if you have to, this is what Kelsen tried to do, if you have to study law, avoid all facts. It's the realm of normativity. But then when he discusses democracy, and that's why that piece is so important, he comes to this fascinating, exactly as you highlighted here, to these fascinating distinctions, which are again formal, substantive, and distinctions which he claimed to be overcome by the normative reine Rechtslehre, reappear in his political dealing with democracy. Yeah, it's but yeah, I would be very happy to send you a copy of the article. And Schmidt, who starts from a sociological perspective, saying it's all indecision. You have to be, yeah, it's decisionist. Decision is part of the norm. Yeah, he goes in the direction of the deontological logic, and he says you can't eliminate decision from the structure of norm. But then, of course, what does he use? He uses Weber's methodology and definition of power to come at that peculiar and idiosyncratic definition of sovereignty as he who decides upon the state of exception, which then, of course, set off the whole, even the radical critique of law. And when you mention Kritz, Schmidt became a hero of radical left, not just extreme right. Yeah, but thank you very much for your comments.
Just in the course of your last dialogue with Michael, I think that it's probably a good point to ask you, in this picture in plain terms of democratization and constitutionalism, where is the place to put such term? You almost didn't use it as human rights. How we can do this concept in this picture related to transition process, democratization, and linking with constitutionalism? Yeah, because isn't it fascinating that when you don't have them, you know exactly what they mean, what they are, and you know how important it is to fight for them.
if you live in free society, democratic society, or constitutional democratic society, they experience such proliferation of rights that anything can be right. You're right. Yeah, that it's a couple of years ago, one of junior officials in European Union claimed that every person should, it's a human right to have access to internet.
Internet is different thing.
Yeah. If you talk to people in Africa, and I spent some time in Africa, so it's a great idea, but a water tap would be a better start. Yeah? Access to water, access to internet is a great human right, but access to water would be even better. Yeah, you have to have certain common sense. It's well, if you live in Finland, I guess you don't question access to. It's almost like living in Wales. You don't struggle for access to water. You try to avoid it. So human rights are immediately, and what I was talking about today, I assume that part of constitutionalism is constitutional rights. And it's a great story, actually, of human rights that Bentham, when he criticized the French Revolution, he made a famous remark: nonsense upon stilts. Yeah? You see those clowns balancing on stilts and talking about human rights. He ridiculed the French Revolution from the radical perspective. He was a political radical. He says, your rights are always defined by the state. You get your rights only through the command of the sovereign. Yeah. But we know, and the history ever since, we have 200 years of this nonsense upon stilts, that now we know that every sovereign, if it is to be considered a legitimate sovereign in power, needs to comply with preconditions that we call rights. I'm not saying human, I'm not saying constitutional, but it is simply something on which modern, democratic, legitimate politics is dependent. Yeah. So, yeah.
Maybe I have some commentaries. First of all, I find this very interesting, your particular interest in Schmidt, because just can give one fine example. I met once during a conference on practice of PPP. It's very interesting, actually, very interesting, legal and social and political aspect, problem of implementation, and legal transfer, and so on this PPP practice. And one high official, senior legal advisor from Baker and McKenzie in Moscow, one of the key figures in this process, attended this meeting, and he cited Schmidt, but he was of German origin. So,
right.
And I asked him, why Schmidt? Because it was completely strange to this audience. And he said, the books of Schmidt are on my table in Moscow, so it's a table book, because exactly he stresses us on this, to some extent, chaotic process of legal implementation and so on in present-day Russia. Exactly this decisionism of Schmidt, this idea of who decides, the power decide, and so on. Exactly more productive than a huge tradition of this legal textualism and so on, legal normativism. And my second thought is that I was very encouraged to attend this your presentation because of my reading of your, this is not a book, fortunately it's a review of your book on dissidents of law, because exactly right now I think it is the most productive attempt to understand the process of, how to say, the political struggle or something else in Russia present day. It is exactly the most productive because we see here this tension, this problematic it is constant struggle, because it might be some kind of ambivalence, tension between legality and legitimacy. Exactly, Putin and this present-day political regime based his legitimacy on elections on the one hand, and on the law. Putin is one of the favorable words in his public presentation. It's, we are legal power, go to courts and decide who is responsible, what is wrong. But on the other hand, we have a strong oppositional movement, increase of this oppositional movement, which is based on this misuse of elections. How to say it? Maybe this big number of violations of electoral laws, exactly, and so on. And one of the key slogans of this new movement is exactly, we are, in Russian say, I have I forget this beautiful slogan on plaquette, to show it in public. Жить не по понятиям, а по праву. So not, you know, this difference between по понятиям, some kind of covered conversations and so on, and live life based on law, in pure terms. But exactly, I think in this case, it is exactly very productive, and I find this your idea very inspiring, and maybe we need a translation of your book into Russian, because, and actually one of the, if you can read this Novaya Gazeta, this huge debate on results of these elections and possible future strategy of Russian opposition, there is a difference between two movements among the opposition. One is we need a popular movement, some kind of increasing disobedience and so on, popular protest. And another hand, we have a strong voice of former Soviet, not so dissidents in pure terms, but key figures of perestroika movement, like Klamkin, Lyubov Shevtsova, this perestroika time public intellectuals who attended acclaim during that time. And central idea of this group, Shevtsov particularly, Shevtsov, we need a constitutional reform. Because it's a key feature of future of Russia. We need a constitutional reform. So, from this perspective, I think your book and your approach is very productive and fruitful for us. So, thank you.
Okay. I think what you said is really important. Maybe I didn't emphasize it enough. But first of all, the picture of a Baker McKenzie law expert with books of Schmidt on his night table, well, sounds almost frightening to me. But beware, legal experts. Doing private business with Schmittian zeal. Yeah, it's about. No, Schmidt is the most controversial and, as I said, idiosyncratic, personally probably opportunistic and pretty nasty person. But we shouldn't pass any moral judgments on person, but on his work. I'm not surprised that he manages to inspire so many people from really like not extreme right that much. That's interesting, but like traditional conservative authoritarian to De Gaullean types of strong plebiscitarian republicanism to even radical critics of Western liberal democracies. Yeah? And but what you said about constitution, that we need constitutional reform and different dissidents and protests, I understand constitutionalism as, first of all, as self-constitutionalization and therefore self-limitation of political power. The moment you have constitution, significantly limits the chances of your exercise of power. Okay? It expands them, but only through legal channels, as we know. So you can use laws and so on, but at the same time, you can do only what the law prescribes, what the law defines as legal. And therefore, constitutionalism means this, first of all, as regards the political power system, it means it's restraint and self-limitation. The question is, one of my friends described Yeltsin's Russia as civil society without the rule of law. Yeah, that there was a lot of things going on the ground, and yeah, and when I don't know enough simply about Russia, but Putin looks to me like a person who successfully combines two different types of legitimacy. One is this charismatic plebiscitarian, that he is different from the rest. Yeah, that exceptional. There, what is charismatic legitimacy? Power of exception. And so, yeah, we were talking about it on the way here. That not every European leader can shoot a tiger and dive for an antique amphora or whatever he found on the bottom of the sea. But so this is clear charisma. Yeah, this is. But as we know from Weber, every charisma then is routinized. So you need you have this disenchantment means also the routinization of charisma. And what is a big question for me is, where is this administrative rationality that can legitimize the system of Putin without Putin? That it's something more than just a charismatic, temporary system of legitimation. And that because every leader knows that he or she needs to routinize charisma. You can only if you're Evita, you don't have to because it's your role is to provide charisma. Or if you're a wife, I don't know, who is Putin's wife? She's not very charismatic, is she? Yeah, it's interesting because some wives can do a tremendous job for
Gorbachev's wife.
Oh yes, Raisa Gorbacheva. Yeah, she provided charisma for
her disappearance is a part of his charisma.
Right. Yeah. So it's and the question, the big question, which I would have about Professor Tessi, where is this modern machine, modern iron cage of modernity in Russia? Whether if it's not channeled through the rule of law, where is it channeled through? Every society has some channels. Whether it's ancient form of Chinese bureaucracy that you can be very rich, you can be the most important in the province, but the moment you break the rules of conduct, you get the punishment from the center, like we saw just recently with that Bocci libel, whatever the leader, that hardliner, whose son had a lavish lifestyle. But you're still communist. Yeah, you can drive a Ferrari, and you can still. Can you be a communist and drive Ferrari in Russia? But it has to be red, I assume.
That is the second position.
Yes.
Because it's the question of this as well. You mentioned your interest in transition. It is a transitional process, or it is a kind of covered description of some kind of continuity between socialism and post-socialism. Because exactly in Russia we have this strong sense of continuity and continuation of many practices from the Soviet time. I just remember my conversation with several watchers who knows this new unofficial institution of this наблюдатели, watchers, how to say it, on this election, watchers, how to say it, наблюдатели.
Right.
Watching. And he said that exactly many heads of these local election commissions were from the Soviet time, and for these people, women in Balzacian age, 50s and so on, exactly it was the Soviet routine of misuse of everything.
Right.
It was repeated.
Right.
Again. And my actually question or comment stems from this experience and what you say about maybe Czech experience, because as far as I know, there is a strong discontinuity between so say Soviet socialist past and post-socialist past in many East European countries, and exactly express it in legal terms. In Germany, DDR, GDR, Unrecht. It is very important.
Yeah.
All legal system, all practice, and so on is Unrecht. It's like a third right. But of course there is some continuity, but in general it is Unrecht.
Yeah.
And as far as I know, for Czech Republic, it was the same. You have a special law, constitution law, that legal situation in Czechoslovak Federal Socialist Republic was unlegal.
Yeah.
And all laws are without, how to say it? You understand? It's very important because it was proclaimed from above. But in Soviet, in Russia, post-socialism, it doesn't have such a break with socialist past in legal terms. It doesn't have.
Yeah. That's very interesting. I didn't mention the act on lawlessness of communist regime and resistance to it at all. But since you mentioned it's
Yes, it didn't have how it was implemented and practiced.
It's exactly the difference between technical legality and legitimacy by law, because what the law said was the regime was illegitimate, unjust and repressive. However, the law never put in doubt the continuity, the legal technical continuity, so that, for instance, they would be that the judges would be able to reopen the cases of criminal law, criminal justice on the basis of
restitution.
Restitutions. Yeah, they were dealt with by different law, but like retrospective punishment of communist officials. But the law, as you correctly commented, had exactly legitimation formula of discontinuity. That was unrecht, that was unjust, even if we technically have a legal continuity. The previous system was an unjust, illegal system, lawless system, and protiprávní. And in German they use this concept of Unrecht. Yeah, that not everything that is called recht is recht automatically. Yeah. And we need to finish. Yeah?
Oh, we are running out of time. Yes, but if you want to.
No, what you said about Russia, and I love, for instance, stories by Leskov. Yeah, that about a German entrepreneur who simply goes to start a business in Russia, and then, of course, he ends up on the street, completely destroyed, his personal life, his family life, his business life, and then one of the local Russian men makes, oh yes, this is how Russian mud can beat German steel. Yeah, and it's so simply here there is different. I would say what Elena asked earlier about what is this idea of law? What is it? Sociological question. What is the living law? What is the living driving machine of behind the official law? And the risk, and clearly, Russia had its modernization But the question, what is this general rule, the realm of the general, the realm of the impersonal in Russia, and how important it is clearly the answer will be very different from Britain to Russia, to Germany, and so modern instrumental rationality takes different form probably from the rule of law. But the biggest risk, and I'm not talking only about Russia, think of Greece today. Greece and the idea of the weak statehood, completely legitimized now. We are European Union is solution for Greek political failures, so they are long-term. And now when the European Union is part of the Greek problem, you can see it's not just politics collapsing, it's society collapsing. Complete distrust in the state. Nobody paid taxes, but then Brussels paid the poor Greek peasants simply to become Europeans and more affluent. And when this dries out, and Europe now wants to dictate how Greeks need to run their business, it means both delegitimation of the Greek state and delegitimation of the European project. And it's so what's going to happen in Greece in the near future? I think it is reaching the revolutionary breaking point, and the revolution can be very nasty. Our revolutions are not always liberating. So if somebody comes up, and the rise of nationalism and almost like fascist propaganda in Greece is a response to the crisis, which is horrifying.
I don't want to finish up the discussion. I just want to finish up the official part, and then we can enjoy unofficial discussion with those who want to continue.
Right.
But before...
You think I should stop the camera?
Yes, please.
And now be honest.
You will be able to say what is the second Putin's legitimation.
Okay.
But before that, I just want to have one practical question. Is there any point of no return when you, whatever you do doesn't matter anymore in dealing with the past? When everything is already restored, the old system with the old people, with the whole situation with the facade justice, facade politics, with the civil society underground there, is already the reality, and there is no point in dealing with the past.
No.
Is there this point?
My simple, quick answer is, in free society, there is never, dealing with the past is never-ending process, because past is always, the fact that we turn the past into history is not just simply constituting some collective memory or academic discipline. It's also self-reflection and self-identification of a free democratic society. And therefore, if dealing with the past finishes as a process, then free society is finished. And when you, for instance, travel to United States, you know how they are dealing and coping with their past, whether it's not just treatment of black population, but also native population, immigrants that were different from wasps and pigs, yeah, as we know. When you look in Germany and Historiker Streit, or recent outrageous remarks by Günter Grass, it's interesting and it's reassuring that simply discourse about the past carries on. The worst thing is that when politicians tell you that the past has been dealt with.
This is democracy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your invitation and for your hospitality.
Thank you.
So now we can switch the camera, can call them off
And ask important questions.
Yes, yeah.
Without camera.
Very interesting.
Is it? Oh, really? Yes, yes. It's yes, yeah. He's a very fine.
Yes, I once met him.
Really?
In Ohio. I attended a conference in Miami.
Yes, yes.
It was announced. He's organizer of a huge conference on corruption.
All right, yeah. As a Bulgarian, of course, yeah, the Bulgarian. Yeah. Oh, he's